Hey everybody, this is my list of the top 10 things you have to consider when choosing your next neighborhood. Number one is, of course, affordability and budget. What are the home values? What are the home prices? What are the property taxes? And then what are the cost of living associated with this particular neighborhood? Are there specific things as it relates to insurance? For instance, is it a lot of the homes near a floodplain? Or maybe if it's at the beach, you have to consider things like that. Is it an older neighborhood? Is it going to need more maintenance? Anything related to your budget is the first thing to consider, because that's going to rule in and rule out a whole lot before you have to even decide on anything else. Number two, safety and crime rates. As a real estate agent, we're pretty limited in what we can and cannot say about safety and crime rates. The fact is, there's crime everywhere. No area is immune from crime. However, there are resources out there that you can look at to determine how much crime a specific area has, what types of crime a specific area has. Some areas have more violent crime, other areas have more non-violent crime. It's always a good thing to check out. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is proximity to fire stations, proximity to police stations. Should something happen, how long is it going to take for help to arrive? And the third thing is, a lot of neighborhoods have neighborhood watch programs set up. So that might be something to look for as well if safety is a real concern of yours. Number three is schools and education. Now, if you're not interested in schools and education, you can skip right past this, but a lot of people are. So the important things to keep in mind are school choices, right? School districts. What school will your kids go to if you have kids, if you move into said neighborhood? Are there more than one choice? Is it just one option, or are there charter options? Are there private options that might fit your needs as well? And then what are those school ratings? The second thing is proximity to schools. Public schools usually all have public transportation. Charter options don't, for the most part. So if you choose a charter school, you want to know how far that neighborhood is going to be away from that school, because you're probably going to end up driving your kids and picking them up. Number four is amenity and convenience items. Proximity to daily needs, drugstores, grocery stores, gas stations, hospitals, all those types of things. How far do you have to go to cover your daily needs from said neighborhood? Also, proximity to leisure activities. Are you a golfer? How close is the nearest golf course? Play tennis? How close is the nearest tennis course? Dog parks, whatever you're into. Right? Movie theaters, bars, whatever it is. How close are those things to said neighborhood, and how important is that to you? Number five is commute and transportation. If you have a place of business or a place that you have to go to every day to work, the proximity to that, how long it's going to take, matters. My advice, drive it during rush hour, because if you drive it at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you're probably not going to get a good sense for how long it's going to take you to get from point A to point B. It might depend on the time of day. Secondly, are there public transportation options if that's something that is important to you? And walkability and bikeability is also something that is important to a lot of people. They want to be able to walk to things or bike to things. They don't want to always have to get in the car to go where they need to go. Number six, future growth and development. This is really important. It's not something that a lot of people think about, but it's worth your time to dive into the public records, to the planning meetings, agendas, and see what is coming on the horizon. It could be a nice, pretty neighborhood that you're looking in, and they could be about to build a monstrous apartment complex right in the front of the neighborhood. That may or may not concern you. Or they could potentially be building a commercial complex that may or may not concern you. Knowing whether they're going to widen the road, it's a good idea to know before you buy what might be coming on the horizon that could enhance or detract from the property's value and the property's suitability for your needs, right? Along with that, appreciation potential. So if it's a new development, you are the first home in the neighborhood, then you're probably going to get in at the lowest price. However, as long as there are new homes being built in that neighborhood, if you should have to sell your house, you're going to be competing with that new construction. That will always be the upper limit of what your house will be worth. So while it's good to be an area that's growing and it's in high demand, just keep in mind that if you think that you might be in this house for a shorter amount of time, and they have plans to build and build and build and build for years, that might be something that you want to know. Number seven is community vibe and culture. So what is the neighborhood atmosphere like? Highly recommend visiting the neighborhood, walking the sidewalks if there are any, and do it at different times of day to get a sense for how the neighborhood feels to you, whether you feel safe and comfortable in it, what the noise level is, how friendly the people are. 2, demographics. Demographics are important to some people. Again, that's not something that a real estate agent can advise you on because of fair housing laws. But there are several communities in our area, in the Cary-Morrisville area, for instance, that have a high concentration of folks that are from Asia or India, and they like to live in proximity to each other, and that's fine. If you're not part of that group, that might be something that you want to know before you buy a house there, though. And so the only way to really find that out is to walk the area and observe for yourself. Events and activities also important. So are there regular community events that happen? Is it an active community or not? Those are things that you might want to consider. Number 8 is the HOA. Homeowners Association is a governing body comprised of residents that kind of dictate a lot of things pertaining to rules and regulations for the neighborhood. If you're a boat person and you keep a boat in your driveway, a lot of neighborhoods have rules against that. You might want to know that beforehand. Same thing with RVs or heavy equipment. Is there an architectural review process? If you wanted to add on to your home, how hard is that going to be? If you wanted to add a detached building, how difficult, how many hoops are you going to jump through to do that? Conversely, HOAs can be very good for property values because they keep neighborhood uniformity, and they generally enforce a level of maintenance that, keeps the neighborhood looking nice and protects everybody's property value. So that's something that you might want to know. And then, of course, what are the fees? And then what are the amenities that are included in those fees? Is it a pool or playground or tennis courts? Like, what are you getting for your monthly fee? Number 9 is resale value. The best way to get an indication of resale value is to look backwards and try to see, and a good real estate agent can help you with this, see what the trend is. Are homes appreciating in this neighborhood or not? And then what is the rate of appreciation as it compares to other comparable neighborhoods? Ideally, you get somewhere that, your property value is going to be enhanced over time, not just stagnant or certainly not declining. Are there lots of lots left to build? Like I said before, is it a neighborhood that's in high demand? And then what do the comparable sales look like over a historic trend? And then number 10 is just personal preferences. And there's a lot of things that go into this, but some of the things that you might consider, first is noise level. Okay, now I'm not talking about noisy neighbors. I'm talking about what's around the community. So are you in the flight path of a local airport? Are you going to get airplanes flying over your house every 10 minutes? Maybe that bothers you, maybe it doesn't. And that's a personal preference. Same thing for highways or busy roads. Road noise can travel, especially during the fall when the leaves are off the trees. How important is that to you? Same thing with train tracks. Okay, anything like that, commercial, industrial, manufacturing plants, things like that, that might have an impact on just the ambient noise level in the neighborhood. Privacy, so space between your house and your neighbor's house. Lord knows that they're cramming them in there today in new construction, trying to take advantage of every last inch of dirt that they can to get as many homes as they can on that dirt. Not everybody likes to be on top of their neighbor. Again, that goes back to number 1, affordability and budget. Sometimes it's not an option, but if it is, that's something to consider. And what is your personal preference about that? And then the last one is just architectural style. So what kind of style home are you into? Do you need a ranch 1-story home? Are you into a bungalow or a craftsman or a mid-century modern home? Maybe you don't even know, and that's perfectly fine too. But again, that is a personal preference that some people have. So that's a pretty comprehensive list that if you follow that and you check all of those boxes, you're all but guaranteed to end up in a house in a neighborhood that you're gonna love for a very long time. And isn't that the goal at the end of the day? Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and I'll see you next time.